Ahoy Boats sponsors great continental river journeys. My name's Steve Walker.
And I'm Ewa Marcinkowska, and we are embarking on an adventure that will take us through Poland.
We'll be using this, our Nordic Explorer, which can take us to places that no road or rail traveller could even get to. We're going to row down the queen of Polish rivers, the last wild river in Europe, the River Wisła.
From outside the Krakow to Gdańsk on the Baltic coast.
It's 30 years since the first free elections in Poland.
We must get to Gdańsk in time for the celebrations at the Solidarity Center.
After all, solidarity changed the world as we know it. During the Cold War, Poland was in the Eastern Bloc, behind the Iron Curtain. So I, in the West, knew absolutely nothing about Poland.
But to me, it was my home.
We'll be calling at places that you've probably never heard of. In the last episode, we interviewed Captain Stanisław Fidelis, who has dedicated his entire life to the River Wisła. So thank you, Stanisław. It's been an immense pleasure listening to you on your stories about the Wisła.
Ja nie potrafię nic innego oprócz kochać i wielbić i pływać na Wiśle.
We're going to row across to what looks like a Teutonic castle over on the other side of the river. But we'll find out when we get there what it actually is. So
Let's go.
yeah, let's go. Of course, in a boat like this Nordic Explorer, which is ideal for an expedition like this, you can easily nip across the river, you can change your mind about where you're going to go, and have a lot of fun doing it. Neither of us have ever been in a building like this. We don't know quite what it is. We've had a special invitation exclusive to us. It's not the sort of place that you would gain access to in the normal course of events. So we're thrilled to bits that we were able to row over there, and thrilled also to be able to show you what we discovered, which may not be what you expect.
Witamy w Płocku. Witamy
w gościnnej płockiej ziemi. Serdecznie pragnę Państwa powitać w naszym gościnnym Płocku, na starej mazowieckiej ziemi, w naszym ukochanym miejscu, elewatorze Silopolu. W zasadzie implementowano stary projekt z lat 20. dla tego elewatora. W latach międzywojennych nie starczyło widocznie polskiemu państwu pieniędzy. W latach 50. postanowiono odbudować i wtedy znalazły się socjalistyczne pieniądze na budowę socjalistycznej świątyni. Wtedy powstawały tylko betonowe bloki i ten blok betonowy mógłby zostać tak jak tutaj, nieobudowany cegłą. Natomiast postanowiono obmurować to czerwoną cegłą, żeby stanowiło to przeciwwagę dla katedry z tamtej strony. Miał być to największy budynek w Płocku i nadal jest największy budynek w Płocku. Dlatego był nazywany świątynią pracy socjalistycznej.
On the 10th floor, silos are being loaded with grain.
W ogóle pojemność to jest 30 000 ton elewator.
Okay, so we're going up there now, are
The
we?
30,000 ton, the capacity of the elevator of this is 30,000 ton.
Right,
Tons.
that's a lot of tons.
It's a lot of tons.
Right, are we going up?
Yes.
Tak.
Right.
O, ja takie biedy pamiętam, ja mieszkałam w takim bloku.
A my nie boimy tego 13 piętra.
They're not afraid of
U nas nie jest jak w hotelach.
Can I ask Roberto?
Yes.
What is your role in this business?
The first of all, I'm waiting the cars that are coming to our place. Another small building that is near the road. The car goes on the big scale, and we are testing the grain in the laboratory.
And what are these characters?
No tak, to jest dopiero ciekawe. To wszystko można zjeść iść razem z mąką.
Pen and paper.
Yes.
How traditional.
When it passes the test, I'm calling our workers to unload the grain to our elevator. We need to change the routes that are going to one silo or another silo.
Yeah.
It depends if the wheat goes in one silo, if it's corn it goes into another. So to unload it, we need to change the route.
Yes. So the vertical square pipe that goes up the side of the building contains lots of little cuboids, buckets, containing 0.5 to 1 kilogram of grain each, and they take the grain to the top where they're tipped into the conveyor. How do you get it to deposit whatever comes in into different places?
There is a machinery that you can move it right to where is the silo. You can see.
So here, right.
Yes.
So this is the business. So this business end, this can be moved to another one.
Yes.
There's a hole.
Yes.
Right. I see. Right. We're standing right over it.
So we can move this machinery.
From one hole to another hole, and right. Now I get it. What is the difference between a granary and a silo?
In the old granaries, the grain was stored on flat surfaces, and you could store as much as the surface was strong to hold it on different levels. In silos, the pressure is going not on the floor down, the surface is going out, and they are built in that way that on the bottom they've got thicker construction is very, very stronger on the bottom.
The view from the highest floor of the highest building in Płock is simply breathtaking.
Interrupted and ask you what you've been talking about whilst I had my head out of the window.
Oh, we were talking about potentially we will be able to load the grain to the ship or barges from here, but we never use since Jolanta bought the company.
Do 89 no to szły prace cały czas na Wiśle, a teraz nie idą, no bo gdzieś te środki zniknęły albo przestały być potrzebne. Żegluga tutaj furgała.
Tak. 89 to jest właśnie kiedy komunizm się zakończył.
Ponieważ nastąpiło sprywatyzowanie niektórych wycinków tego przemysłu żeglugowego, no bo tak to należy nazwać. Tutaj jest stocznia rzeczna, która produkowała statki. Nikomu nie wydawało się potrzebne, żeby rzeka płynęła. No, nastąpił ogromny rozwój transportu samochodowego w tym czasie. O wiele łatwiej było polskim przedsiębiorcom kupić 1 czy 2 ciężarówki i ją wykorzystywać, niż przejąć statek i na dodatek utrzymywać wszystkie zgody. Teraz dopiero odbudowuje się coś takiego jak eksport surowców z Polski. No i teraz ten transport do Gdańska jest na tyle intensywny, że myśli się znowu o odbudowaniu drogi wodnej.
There's another plan of creating the waterway E45 to connect Poland and Ukraine through another river, Bug, Wisła and Bug and to Ukraine. But whenever it will materialize, we never know.
Yeah. Very interesting. My feeling about that is it's never going to happen. It's going backwards in time. You know, in England we had canals, and then the railways took over, and then from the railways the roads took over, and now the canals are just used for leisure. And I think the same thing will happen to the Wisła. In fact, it's happening already. Actually, it's been happening for a long time. The rowing club in Płock was established in 1882. There are marinas now appearing up and down the Wisła, just as here in Płock.
Że sądzi, że chyba to się tak nie wydarzy, bo pewne kole...
Nawet o co pozbawiam marzeń.
Even you take Jolanta's dreams away.
I'm sorry. These bricks are hollow. Why?
Firstly, it reduces the mass. Secondly, it provides thermal protection. and it doesn't freeze.
And that proved to be really important during the 1982 flood. The river froze overnight, and that caused dense masses of ice to block the river, and the river level rose to 126 centimetres over the previous highest level that had ever been recorded. The port was flooded, and yet the silo remained dry because of its clever design.
This is the main construction, and they are thicker on the bottom, but the brick is just surrounded. That was the idea of socialism, to make it better.
Better than the cathedral on the other side, yes. Okay, well, this has been great. It's fascinating. Thank you very much.
Nie wiem, czy to takie fascynujące, nie wiem.
No, but it is interesting. You know, most people have never been inside anything like this.
Wiecie, dla niektórych, dla normalnych zjadaczy chleba, to takie wnętrza są strasznie przaśne, bo teraz są ludzie przyzwyczajeni do granitu, marmuru, stali szlachetnej, błysku, a my tutaj siedzimy właśnie w tym zaścianku.
Yes, but it's part of the infrastructure of the country, isn't it? This is how the country works. You take so much for granted. Your bread arrives already sliced in a plastic bag, and you've no idea how it got there from the fields which you've driven through. But this is part of that system.
Do tego w metalowych silosach nie ma takich przestrzeni.
Not very typical place, because now in the modern silos the spaces are very small, so you don't see the dust which is there, but here
Widać ten ruch zboża.
the grain will go from here, go on another lorry.
Right. Beginning to understand it. So this is the exit pipe up here.
To jest wszystko właśnie w egzicie.
It goes out through the wall there and goes into the trucks.
The most interesting time is when the harvest starts, so all the tractors come and they
Rolnicy ze swoją specyfiką.
tractors with
Przyjedźcie tu w lipcu.
we're having a coffee break.
Okay.
It was then that Jolanta kidnapped us in her beautiful British Jaguar motor car and took us to a lovely restaurant on the other side of the river.
Right on the left hand side for photography session. Anno Domini 1180.
And it's the oldest school in Poland.
Yes.
And this has got to be one of the best views in Poland.
It's older than Jagiellonia University. Jagiellonia University is 130 something.
Apparently, during the Swedish deluge, the Swedish King Charles X, Gustav, stayed overnight in the school building. When the Swedish troops left the school library was looted.
Na zdrowie, na zdrowie. There were a lot of different obstacles they had to go over to make this company successful to exist. Jolanta has a lot of experience of going to the local authorities, making statements. She is like Polish Husaria with those wings. They will know they are not losers.
Yeah. And Lech Wałęsa says never give up.
She even once involved national TV, came here and was supporting her in changing plans for a cycle path, which was supposed to go in front of her exit from the company, which was quite dangerous for both cyclists and drivers. Before '89, she would probably, instead of being the owner of the company and having this freedom, which sometimes is difficult, but still freedom, she is the owner, possibly she would be working in that company 8-hour shift, or maybe she would be a history teacher.
History tells us that virtually all cities are built on hills.
And here we are in another royal Polish city, set on the top of the hill, the Tumskie Hill. This is the oldest part of the city, where a fortified ducal town was built already in the 10th century. It served as a residence of Polish rulers when, in 1079, capital of Poland moved out from Kraków to Płock for 60 years. Duke Władysław Herman and his son Bolesław Krzywousty, Wrymouth, ruled Poland from Płock. The remains of both Polish rulers and also 15 Mazovian princes rest in this beautiful cathedral basilica.
The entrance to the cathedral is via this amazing door, which was cast in the 12th century in the city of Magdeburg. But this door has somehow ended up in Russia. So there was a copy made 800 years later, which is at the main entrance to the cathedral in Płock.
Next to the cathedral, there is a castle of the Dukes of Mazovia, built in the 14th century in a Gothic style, later rebuilt into Benedictine Abbey. Currently it houses the Diocesan Museum. Here you can find magnificent examples of goldsmith art dating back to the Middle Ages. The most famous is a Płock diadem, a crown from 13th century made of pure gold set of sapphires, rubies and pearls.
And in this Mazovian museum is the largest collection in Poland of Art Nouveau, with nearly 2,000 items on display.
The beating heart of the modern Płock is here, near the market square, where many cultural and sport events take place through the year. And this is the second city on our journey where you can listen to bugle call, Hey Now, every day from the tower of this impressive building of Town Hall. We also checked that you can definitely get a drink in Płock. This is thanks to Polish King Zygmunt the Old.
Now, in 1528, King Sigismund the Old gave the city the right to run a cellar selling alcoholic beverages on an exclusive basis, the profit from which was to be used for the repair of walls and public buildings, which are still in good repair today.
We know that Frédéric Chopin came to Płock and he went to post office to send a letter.
And 100 years later, in 1921, Marshal Piłsudski also came to Płock. We don't know if he sent a letter, but we do know that he awarded the city the Cross of Valor for its heroic defense against the Bolshevik army.
Marshal Piłsudski was a Polish revolutionary and statesman viewed as the father of Second Polish Republic. He was the first prime minister of the newly independent Poland established in 1918. There is a parallel because Tadeusz Mazowiecki, who was born in Płock, was the first prime minister of newly freed Poland from 1989, one of the leaders of Solidarity movement and the right hand of Lech Wałęsa during the Round Table negotiations before the first free election few months later in 1989.
If you haven't got a boat, like our Nordic explorer, to get across a wide river like the River Wisła, then you need a bridge. And Płock has two bridges. The first one is called the Legions of Marshal Piłsudski Bridge. It was built a couple of years before the outbreak of the Second World War. And then it was destroyed by the Polish army in September 1939. To make life difficult for the occupying Germans, who subsequently rebuilt it in 1943, only to have to blow it up again when they retreated from the Russians in 1945. As a result, Płock was left without a bridge for the next 5 years. It was rebuilt in 1950. During the flood of 1982, the bridge was seriously damaged by nature.
The second bridge in Płock is a new Solidarity Bridge with a record-breaking span of 375 meters. It's one of the largest cable-stayed bridges with stays in one plane, and this is the only structure of this type in the country. Also in Płock on the River Wisła you will find something that you will never find anywhere else in Poland or probably even in Europe.
Over to the right of me, behind me, is a new pier. The only river pier on the River Wisła.
And it's 358 meters long, which is only 7 meters short from 365.
And 365 is a theme we've come across time and again in Poland.
It was built parallel to the riverbank. In this way, it is protected against dangerous ice phenomena occurring on the River Wisła. And it's beautifully lit at night. Actually, the whole riverbank is beautifully lit.
We've stopped here because there was a tragic incident here that shocked the whole Polish nation and rocked the Communist Party. Everybody in Poland was completely shocked. It was the 19th of October 1984, and a priest named Jerzy Popiełuszko gave a sermon in Bydgoszcz, and on his way back to Warsaw with his chauffeur, he was kidnapped by secret agents of the Communist Party, tortured and brutally murdered. Everybody was searching for him afterwards. All the police forces all around were looking for him, for his body, for some sign of him. And here, at a dam across the River Wisła in Włocławek, his body was found. It had been put in a sack with rocks so it would sink to the bottom of the river. This absolutely rocked the Polish nation to the core, and even the Communist Party was shocked. Even General Jaruzelski, who was in charge because it was during the period of martial law, he felt this was wrong. And the police did their job as policemen, and the culprits were apprehended, the 4 people tried in Torun and convicted. But Popiełuszko's last sermon in a church in Bydgoszcz, which was named the Modern Martyrs Church, which is ironic really, was all about freedom and not being oppressed. And he was a thorn in the Communist Party's side, and they were after him, and they got him. But he became a martyr himself, and subsequently Pope John Paul II went to his grave, knelt at his grave. He came here, where this cross has been erected in memory of Jerzy Popiełuszko. But I don't want you to think that this is just a Polish or a Communist Party thing, because this sort of thing has been going on since time began. And there's a parallel, a direct parallel, with the English king, Henry II. In 1170, he said to his court, maybe it was a glib comment, "Is there nobody who will rid me of this troublesome priest?" And who he meant by that was Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury. And a couple of his henchmen decided to take it upon themselves to go to Canterbury and kill Thomas Becket. And the king hadn't actually given an order, and he was very repentant about it. And the guys who'd done it, they went to Scotland to try and get out of his jurisdiction. But the king wore sackcloth and ashes. He paid penance. He hadn't actually ordered it. This is what happens when you're in a responsible position. You say something glibly, and the people around you think it's an order, but it isn't necessarily an order. And maybe the person who actually ordered Popiełuszko's murder just made a glib comment. But anyway, somebody was held responsible and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. But it's a tragedy, and it certainly rocked the Communist Party, and it's part of Poland's modern history that I think you should know about. And 800,000 people and 1,000 priests turned up to the funeral of Jerzy Popiełuszko. Since then, he's been beatified. Next step, sanctified. And this is the dam where his body was found. The next stop on our journey towards Gdansk is the birthplace of Copernicus, Torun.
Medieval city founded by Teutonic knights and famous for very beautiful old town and the gingerbread.
I definitely think the Daleks were here before Doctor Who. We've seen this everywhere. I need a pair of those long shoes like clowns used to wear. So Napoleon séjourna, my best French accent. Ahoy Boats sponsors Great Continental River Journeys. If you enjoyed this episode of our documentary series, then please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. They really help. And sharing, that helps even more. And finally, subscribe to this channel so that YouTube can let you know when the next episode is going to be available. Did we make it in time to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the end of the Soviet era? Turned up.
to Jerzy Popiełuszki's. No, that's wrong. Jerzy Popiełuszko. In the meantime, the battery's going down, and it's very windy. Is it still catching the wind?
No, z takim zbliżeniem to będą wszystkie pigi widoczne. Jest transportowane do przenośników kubełkowych.
O Jezu, muszę to przetłumaczyć.
Awion transportowy. Się kurzy, do tego farba spada.
So now you are the local aristocracy.
Teraz Państwo są lokalną arystokracją.
No, musielibyśmy się arystokracją urodzić. Ja proponowałam spadkobiercom tego pałacu realnym z tytułami szlacheckimi, żeby mnie adoptowali, ale nie chcieli.
If you haven't got a bridge to get across a wide river like the Wisła, then you need a
If you haven't got the bridge.